Hello my friends, and welcome back to Three-Legged Dog Yoga. My name is Lindsay, this is Chewy, and today's class is for posterior pelvic tilt. So we're going to be working on stretching the front body and then strengthening the back body. And I'm going to show you a few modifications in some of the easier poses, like a forward fold, just so you can get into it a bit easier. So you will need a couple of blocks and a bolster, or I have a rolled up blanket, rolled up towel works fine, whatever you have. Books are also a great substitute for blocks. And let's get started. So we're going to start at the tops of our mats today. Let's roll the shoulders back, stand up nice and tall. Press those feet into the floor as we bend gently through the knees. Chin stays tucked, crown of the head is lifted. And maybe close the eyes for a moment here. And just start tuning in with the breath today. Feeling the natural rise and fall of the belly and the chest on the inhales and the exhales. And just taking a moment to maybe set an intention for today's practice, whatever that may be. Let's gently open the eyes. Inhale the arms up nice and tall. Big bend in the knees as we exhale to fold forward. Hands find the shins as we inhale to lift, look up. And then exhale, let's plant the hands to the floor. Gently step back, drop the knees, and come all the way down to the floor. Untuck the toes, press into the tops of the feet. As we inhale, roll our shoulders back. Just come up for a little baby cobra. And then exhale, come down. We'll just do that a few more times. So inhale, just keep it nice and small. Exhale down. Inhale up. Exhale down. And on this one, let's press a little bit further into the arms, coming up just a little bit higher into the full expression of cobra. And just waiting and just staying here for one moment. And then coming back down. Tuck the toes, and we'll send the hips up for downward facing dog. So taking a nice deep bend in the knees here really helps get our pelvic bone in that nice neutral position. So if we just kind of plant the feet down, you can see how my back rounds pretty quickly. So if we keep a nice bend in the knees, we can keep a lot more control over that midsection, over that pelvic bone. And it doesn't matter how far our feet go towards the floor, as long as we're keeping a nice bend in the knees and we can feel that pelvic bone kind of coming forward towards the thighs. And then we'll gaze to the top of our hands. On the inhale, step up, hands to shins, look up. Exhale, bend in the knees and fold forward. Big inhale as we stand all the way up. Exhale, hands through heart center. And again, inhale, arms come overhead. Exhale, bend through the knees as we fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins as we look up. Exhale, plant the hands, step back, and we'll come all the way back down to our bellies. Awesome. So this time, let's bring our hands out just a bit ahead of us in a cactus shape. We're going to keep the chin tucked. And on the inhale, we're going to reach up with our shoulders, and then we're going to bring our arms up to meet it. Just staying here for a moment. So just coming into a nice, kind of like a low cobra, but with our arms in the air. And then exhale down. Keeping that forehead on the mat. This time we'll bring our hands behind us, palms facing inwards. We're going to come into locust. So inhale, roll the shoulders up and back, draw the arms together, lift the back of the leg. Pressing through that pelvic bone. Gaze stays nice and gentle ahead of you. And then exhale, come down. Relax the forehead on the mat. Take a few breaths here. And then we'll inhale, come back into it. So inhale, roll the shoulders up and back. Lift those legs, squeeze into the glutes. Draw the hands together. Gentle gaze ahead of you. Really squeezing into that whole back body, feeling it all fire up at once. And then exhale, we'll release. Hands come underneath shoulders, tuck the toes. And we'll just draw the hips back all the way to child's pose. Keeping the knees nice and wide, melting the belly towards the thighs. And this is a really nice one to start initiating that movement of belly towards thighs. We really want to focus on that movement. A lot of the time we're told in yoga to hinge at the hips and keep a neutral pelvic bone, and we're a little confused because our pelvic bones are normally a little bit off neutral. So keeping the knees bent and the belly melting towards the thighs is a really great thing to keep in mind. And let's press up into tabletop here. Hands underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips, untuck the toes. And we'll start moving through some cat-cow. So on the inhale, drop the belly, look up. And then exhale, draw the belly to the spine, round it all out. Inhale, look up. Exhale, draw the belly in, round it all out. And work through 2 more on your own breath here. Inhaling to arch the back, really looking up. Exhaling, rounding all out. And last one. And then finding a neutral spine. Let's walk the hands gently forward for extended puppy. You might need to shuffle back on your mat a little bit. So toes stay tucked. We're just going to draw the hands forward, and as we walk the hands forward, we're going to drop the belly towards the mat. So just finding a nice curve in that lower spine. So it doesn't matter how far your head comes. You can always keep blocks propping you up underneath the chest if this is a bit too intense. And we just work that we work that chest towards the mat. Hands are pressing into the mat. Our arms, the forearms are engaged. And just enjoying what this posture has to offer for doing the opposite of a posterior pelvic tilt. We're coming in to a bit of an anterior tilt here. So training the pelvic bone in a different way. And just relaxing into it. And let's press through the hands. Walk the hands back underneath the shoulders. And we'll big inhale with the right arm. And we'll scooch it underneath the left. Bringing that shoulder down to the mat, relaxing that right cheek down. And checking in with the hips, making sure we're not falling over to our left side with the hips, trying to keep them nice and neutral. Maybe extending that left arm ahead of you. Adding a bit of a shoulder stretch here. And just relaxing into this. And then gently bringing that left hand back to center, pressing through that left hand, come back up to neutral. And we'll switch sides. So inhale, that left arm comes up, and then reach underneath that right arm. Reach underneath that right arm. Find the left cheek on the floor. And then again, if you'd like to walk that left arm out just a little bit, brings a bit of a stretch into that upper back, top of the shoulder. Checking in with the hips, keeping them nice and square. And then gently bringing that right hand back to center and coming back up to your neutral spine. Awesome. Let's walk our hands forward, tuck the toes if they're not already tucked, and shoot the hips up for downward facing dog. So once again, bending through that knees, pressing the hips up towards the sky. And we do that first, and then we work on straightening the legs. So if you're not at the part where you can straighten your legs yet, that's totally cool. It took me a long time to be able to get back into this pose in a safer manner. So it can happen, it will happen, it does take some time, so be patient with yourself. Hands are pressing away from the mat, shoulders are lifting out of the sockets. Really sending those hips up nice and high here. And on our next inhale, let's look between our hands, and we're going to step forward with our right foot, drop that back knee down. So if you need a little padding underneath the left knee, you're welcome to fold the mat over. If not, just untuck the toes. Check in with that right knee, making sure we can see that right toe, and then we're going to just sink into the hips. So giving a nice tall spine as we just drop a little bit down into the hips. And we're going to inhale our arms up towards the sky and just gently lean back. Just a little back bend here. Just adding a bit of stretch to that entire front body, which tends to get pretty tight when you do have posterior pelvic tilt. Just breathing here, we'll stay a few breaths in this nice dynamic pose. And then exhale, bring those hands down beside you. We'll reach for our blocks. We're going to keep them probably on the highest setting for now. We're going to scooch our hips back. We want to try and keep the hips over the knees here. You might need to walk that front foot out a little bit. And then roll the toes up towards the shin and find those blocks, find a comfortable spot with those blocks, coming into a half split. So we're going to keep the chest nice and tall, nice and proud as we reach our chest towards our shin. So you might not get very far, and that is totally fine. You can play around with the height of the blocks here. But the idea here is, again, we want to draw that belly towards the thigh, the chest to the shin. It's not rounding through that lower back. And this is a really nice stretch for our dear hamstrings. I'll just take one more breath. And then exhale, we'll plant that front foot down. You can just shuffle your blocks off to the side for now. Frame the foot with the hands, and then step back into our downward facing dog. Maybe walking out the dog a little bit. And then finding some stillness. Again, that deep bend in the knees as we draw the shoulders up and out and send those hips up to the sky. And on our next inhale, we'll gaze between our hands. Big step with that left foot. Drop the back knee down. Again, if you need to add a little bit of padding, you're welcome to. Untuck the back toes. Check in with that front knee, and then we'll sink into those hips. Inhale, arms up to the sky, and then gently come into our mini back bend here. Really shining that chest up and forward. Trying to do this motion mostly with our upper body, less with our lower back, and more shining of the chest with our upper backs. I'm gonna stay one more breath here. And then exhale, we'll find those blocks with the hands. Shift the hips back. Draw the toes to the shin. And then we'll find our half split. So again, lifting up nice and tall, and then reaching with your chest. Sending that chest down to that shin. Imagine that movement. I know it might seem a little crazy, but that's the idea. That's where we want to head with our chest. Will we ever get there? Who knows? But that's the idea here, and we're giving a really nice stretch to the back of our legs. And then exhale, draw that foot down, place the blocks to the side, frame the foot, untuck the back toe, and step back for downward facing dog. And we'll just inhale right up to the top of our mats. Halfway lift, look up. Exhale, bend through the knees. And then inhale, arms come all the way up. And exhale through heart center. Awesome. So next we're going to do a wide leg forward fold. So let's step back with our right foot. We're going to keep our feet parallel to the short ends of our mats. We're going to grab our hands onto our hips here. Stand up nice and tall, and we're just going to take the pelvic bone in the hands and start pushing it forward. So you can feel that it's not rounding as you do this motion. And then if you were to round, you can feel that it's making an arch at in the lower back. So how do we alleviate that? we just come down nice and slowly as far as we can. It might not be super far. That's totally fine. You always have your blocks if you need a couple of assists underneath the hands. And we just stay when we can feel it. So you can really engage those glutes, and the glutes will draw those hamstrings up just a little bit higher, giving them a nice stretch here. And we'll just keep our hands on our hips, or if they're on blocks or the floor, whatever works here for you, making sure we keep that lower body, sorry, the lower back nice and neutral here. So we can feel into that pelvic bone, and it's really nice to get some idea of the movement of the pelvic bone. And I find the wide leg forward fold is much easier to do that because we have a lot more range of motion with our legs, with our feet out nice and wide. And you can feel when it's rounding, and you can feel when it's not. So I do encourage you to try that. Try just moving almost like you're moving through a cat-cow, but just with the pelvic bone while you're in this wide leg forward fold. And then when you have that muscle memory, every time you're in a forward fold or anything like that, you'll know to check in with that lower back, and you know how to fix it. Squeeze into those glutes. And then bring our hands back to our hips. Gently stand back all the way up. And we'll just step to the tops of our mats. And we're just going to come down to the mat. Nothing fancy, just sit right down. Awesome. So you want to scooch to the back of your mat. We're going to grab our blanket now. We're going to grab our blanket now. So what we want to do with a blanket when we're in any seated postures, blanket or the bolster, we're going to sit on it, and then we're just going to kind of roll off of it to the front. And this just helps keep our pelvic bone up nice and tall so we don't roll back, because it's really easy to roll back when we're just seated. And you may have noticed this, or you may not have noticed this, but sometimes when you do certain postures, you just like, I can't hold this. Like they say it's so easy to hold, but like even just in staff pose, teachers will say, oh yeah, it's like just sit up tall. And you're like, but this is really hard. Anyhow, the blanket or the bolster really helps with that. So let's come into a forward fold while we're seated. So we're gonna draw our right foot into our left leg. So the sole of the right foot finds the inner thigh of the left leg. You might need to scooch around on your blanket or bolster here. And then we're gonna sit up nice and tall, and like we did before, we're gonna reach that chest towards the shin. So it doesn't matter how far you come down here. If you need to bend the knee, you're welcome to do that as well. It gives you a lot more space, and you can feel it a lot more in the hamstrings potentially if you bend the knee. So wherever you are, just sitting up nice and tall, and then really trying to glue that belly to the thigh and reaching the shin with our chest. And we'll just sit here for a moment, enjoying this nice hamstring opener again. And then on the next inhale, we gently press up through our hands, walk the hands back up, and we'll just switch sides. So extend that right leg forward, left sole of the foot comes into the right thigh, and then same thing on this side. Maybe scooch around on your blanket a little bit, sit up nice and tall, and then we walk our chest forward, gluing our belly to our thighs. And just breathing here. Really making sure, like we did in our forward fold, we're reaching forward with the belly. We're not rounding into that lower back. And you'll know when you're doing it properly because you will absolutely feel it in the hamstrings. And then pressing back up through center and bring those legs in. So this next one you might want to, if you're in the very beginning phases of fixing your pelvic tilt, you might want to keep the blanket. I will leave it up to you, but I'm going to demonstrate it with the blanket. Some might not need this anymore. You might have moved past it. It's totally fine. But as we lie down on our backs, this is just going to keep that nice natural curvature into the bottom of the spine. And so again, you might need to play with the height of this, because if it's too high, it can cause some discomfort in the lower back. So I want to make sure it's nice and flat. So I'm actually, as I say that, mine is a little bit high for me, so I'm just going to move it to the side. But if you do have one and you need to put it underneath, then you're welcome to do that. Another thing you can also do is roll up the mat a little bit underneath your back. Awesome. So let's keep the feet planted on the floor. We'll raise that left, this is the right foot. We'll raise the right foot into the air, cross it over the left knee, and then on the inhale, just draw that knee, the chest, coming into a supine pigeon here. And just grabbing onto wherever you can. Just grabbing onto wherever you can, back of the thigh or the front of the shin, whatever works. And then you're welcome to gently press that right knee away with the right elbow. Just giving a nice stretch into those glute muscles. Anything to do with the lower back, the glutes are very, very important. So they're one of our to strengthen, alleviate our posterior pelvic tilt are in the glutes. So we work with them and we like to stretch them out a lot. And this is a great one for that. And then we'll exhale, plant both feet back down, and then we'll inhale the left foot up, cross it over the right, keeping that left foot engaged, and same thing on the other side. Just drawing that right knee towards the chest, and again, if you'd like to add on, just pressing away with that left knee with the left elbow. And just breathing here. And then we'll release that right foot down, find the floor, plant the left foot, and then we're going to drop that right leg all the way down. Inhale that left knee up. We're going to grab it with our right hand. We might need to shuffle the hips over a little bit, and we'll just draw that left knee over to the floor on the right side. If you need a block here, then you're welcome to put that underneath the knee on the left side. And just breathing here, keeping that right leg nice and stretched out. The left shoulder is glued to the floor. If you'd like to take your gaze over the left arm, you're welcome to do so. Might be a bit much for some, but if you are there, absolutely go for it. You know your own practice way better than I do, so do your own thing. I am here as your humble guide, but you know you. And on the inhale, let's bring that knee back to center. We'll shuffle the hips back, extend the right arm out, bring the left leg down, inhale the right leg up, and then we'll draw it up and over to the other side. And again, keeping that right shoulder glued to the floor. If you want to take the gaze over the right arm, you're welcome to do so. And just gently tugging with that left hand on the right outer thigh, giving yourself a little bit of a stretch, of a twist here. And just breathing. And then exhale, bring the hips back to neutral, plant both feet. We'll just come into a couple bridges to close out our practice here. So keeping the feet underneath the knees, we're going to press our hands into the floor. Let's roll our shoulders back so we lift the upper back off of the floor, and then press those hips up to the sky. You're welcome to shuffle the shoulders a little bit further and interlace the hands, and then press into those feet, keeping the knees squeezing together as we shoot our hips up for a bridge. This is a really nice one for any posterior pelvic tilt because our back bends are our best friends. I want to train the back how to move in a different way, and it's absolutely possible. This is one of the best ways to do it. And then we'll exhale down, relaxing down into that mat, maybe bringing the feet a little bit wider and letting the knees fall in together. Taking a moment to catch the breath. And then we'll heel toe our feet back into center, placing those hands back on the floor, rolling the shoulders back, and then we'll inhale our hips back up to the sky. Again, pressing those knees together, keeping them nice and safe and engaged. Pressing the hips up to the sky, shoulders are pressing in, chin is gently tucked, and we breathe. And gently relaxing down, letting the shoulders fall, hips fall down to the floor, and again, maybe just drawing those knees back in together, taking the feet a bit wider. I'm just taking a few moments here, finding some calm. And then we'll gently rock ourselves up to seated. Coming into your form of cross-legged, or whatever seated pose suits you best. Placing the hands on the thighs, gently closing the eyes. Keeping that spine nice and tall. Just taking a moment of gratitude for showing up today. And just knowing that as you move through these yoga poses and through yoga practices, although you do have a posterior pelvic tilt, it is not the end of the world, and yoga is very much there to help you. And we'll close our practice today with one big sigh. So exhale all the air out. Big inhale. And exhale, sigh it out. Gently opening the eyes. That is all for the practice today. I hope you enjoyed yourselves. I hope you learned a few things about your pelvic bone, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.